So you know how we eagerly await all the firsts in our children's lives? The first tooth, the first steps, the first day of school, the first sports match, and even the first school dance. But what we don't realize is that there's also a lot of lasts. The last time you breastfeed, the last time little outstretched arms ask for an uppie, or the last time they snuggle into your bed. I, for one, can't wait for that very last lunchbox. As mothers, we also experience a lot of firsts and lasts. The first time you hear mama, the first time you drop them at nursery school, and that cocktail, almost like a chocolate martini of guilt and freedom, and the first time you return after maternity leave, or maybe the last time you return to that specific job. Today, we chat about career transitions and unexpected firsts on your motherhood journey. I'm your host, Madge, and this is Moments. Joining me today is Daniëlla van Heerden. She's an accomplished journalist, podcaster, and speaker based in Johannesburg. With over a decade of experience in the South African media landscape, her career spans print, online, and television news. She recently transitioned to corporate communications, and that makes her the perfect person to chat to me about career transitions in the name of family. Welcome, Daniëlla.
Thank you so much, Madge. I'm excited to be here and to speak to you today.
So the balance between career and family and the reality of compromises, sacrifices, and the beauty of new beginnings is exactly what we want to unpack today. But first, I want to chat about your very impressive career. What drew you to journalism in the first place?
Thanks so much, Madge. It's actually been, I think, a part of me my whole life. And, we say journalism and news, but I think the gist of it is just telling stories. And I was a kid growing up. I just loved going to the library. Yes, I'm very nerdy in that sense. I loved reading newspapers. And I always thought maybe I would be a librarian or a teacher. And then one day when I was about 15 years old, I got to go to a school newspaper course. I was part of my school newspaper, and it was Beeld the Afrikaans newspaper that's here in the northern parts of the country. And they taught us how to make your own school newspaper. And one of the senior editors, they told me, journalism is a career where you get paid, not a lot, but you do get paid to be inquisitive. And I thought, well, that's me. I get to write, I get to tell stories. I'm a very inquisitive person. So I was really blessed in that regard that for me, I had that kind of click moment at 15 years old. And ever since, I just knew that that's what I wanted to do. I loved writing, I loved telling stories. So I went on from school newspaper to varsity newspaper to actually working at Beeld, the very same paper that presented that school newspaper course. And later, I also ventured into TV news until recently, where I made this big career shift. But we'll get to that because of family and issues that I have there that I had to make a bit of a career change.
What were some of the highlights and challenges of being a primetime news anchor, especially as a mother?
Yeah, there were so many highlights. And before I was actually a news anchor, that's a bit more of a stable job. I actually moved to being a news anchor at the same time that I had children, because there you actually have office hours. You know when you go into the office, you know when your shift ends. Before that, I was a field reporter, and that is an amazing job. I really liked it. You get to go all over the country. Sometimes you even travel internationally. And when you say it like that, it sounds very glamorous. It's not, because I think there's a lot of contrast in the job. One day you'll get to go to court and you will hear horrific stories of child abuse. But another day you will be the first person to go on the Gautrain. Back in 2010, I was one of the first to actually go on the Gautrain. And the next you interview someone who is a change maker or an inspiration. So it's a career that really opens up your world. I come from quite a small town in the Northwest Province, Potchefstroom, and journalism Took me out of my comfort zone. It took me to places I otherwise would have never been, interviewed people I never would have from other languages, other cultures, other countries. So it has been something that has really broadened my horizons in every sense of the word. But of course, the challenges are very unexpected events every day that you have to cover. And days that are very unpredictable. You have to be where the news it happens. So I remember I would be on my way to maybe a court case one day when I was a field reporter, and then you would hear, no, but a truck exploded 3 hours from where you are, turn the car around and you go. This is all very exciting when you're in your 20s and you don't have kids, but the moment you have children and you have to know when you have to take them to school or be back at home, it really becomes a challenge. So then I moved to becoming a news anchor where I had more of an office job, so to say, but it was still shifts and challenging hours because I still had to work evenings, like you say, primetime news. We were on air every evening at 7 o'clock, which meant I went into the office in the afternoon. It was a full day in the office, but my day was afternoons and early evenings. And as my children grew older, that just became more and more of a problem because I was not home in the afternoons and the evenings, and they started to go to school in the mornings. And I realized if this would continue, I would hardly ever see them. And that was not really an option for me. So I made a change.
That is so interesting to hear all the stories, and I'm sure you had such an exciting time. And knowing you a little bit, I know that media ticked all your boxes, your creativity, your storytelling, and your personality, and you've got that beautiful voice. It was so perfect for reading the news every night. But I do understand that having an office job, even though it had different hours, made more sense once you became a mother. But still, suicide hour in my house is between 6 and 8. How did you manage in terms of late nights away and not being there? I'm very interested, and I'm sure many other moms will be too, of how your husband did this by himself.
No, so luckily he didn't. So my husband, we actually met when I was working at the newspaper because he was a newspaper photographer back then. Now he's a freelancer. He's a freelance videographer and photographer. And of course, a big help. He is a very hands-on dad, and no ways I could do it without him. But the reality is that sometimes he's away for work as well. Now that he's a freelancer, he gets a booking. Sometimes he's away for 5 days, going to Kenya or another part of the country. So I was very fortunate, and I still am, in the sense that I realized, even just when I had my children, that I would not be able to do the job that I had then without a stay-in nanny. So from the onset, I think when my eldest Simone was 4 months old, we had a wonderful nanny in the first 2 or 3 years. Her husband then moved, and she also moved. We have another wonderful stay-in nanny now. But for me, I would simply not be able to do my job if it was not for that. So you say, how did I do it? I didn't really do it. If it wasn't for help, both from my husband, who was here at times, maybe on weekends when the nanny was off and he's not working, then he would take over. At other times, she would be a help. And most of the times, it would be the two of them together, because I also have a second little girl now. At the moment, my eldest is almost 5 years old. The youngest just turned 2. So, the past 2 years were rough. We had a baby and a toddler in the house. And as every mom would know, even one set of hands feels like it's not enough. So if I wasn't here, usually the two of them or either one of them would take on that role of suicide hour, like you say. And it's a strange thing because, like you say, it is suicide hour. It is rough. But also at the same time, when you miss it so often, as I did, and you're not there, you also realize that it's important to be there. Not all the time. I'm not saying you should be there all the time. And I believe that you can chase your goals and go for your dreams. But for me, it just felt like I could not balance everything anymore. My days were all out of whack with it. Worked really well before children, but it just did not work that I came home in the evenings, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. I always got into bed too late then. Before I had kids, I could sleep late, I could catch up. But now my kids go to school, so I had to be up before 6 again, meaning I just got 6 hours of sleep on a good night. And then I'd take them to school. I'd have a bit of the morning free. Then I have to go to work. I didn't see them. So in that regard, I didn't manage. And that's why I had to make a change.
So would you say that was your cue? That was how you knew it was time to step back?
Yes, over time you can just feel that this will not work long term. And another big thing that was my eldest daughter, she is in grade RR now. Next year she'll be in grade R. That's part of the primary school. I have a lot of friends with kids who's a bit older. Their kids are already in primary school, and I really see how busy they are in the afternoons. I want my kids to also be able to do extramurals and extracurricular activities. And I just realized that if I'm never around, that would not be possible. It just wouldn't. Um, what if my husband is away on a 2 week trip? I'm at the office. I can't leave the office every day. When I actually just get there, that is when their extramurals start. So I started thinking ahead. And while I could still kind of just juggle things at the moment as it was, I realized as my kids get older, I would have to be more present in the afternoons and early evenings. So it's actually been, I've been planning for a while. I started thinking, what would I have to change? How would I have to change it? And I realized that I live in Johannesburg. There's a lot of traffic here. I don't want to be stuck in traffic every day. I don't want to rush between an office and my children. So I looked for a remote job. And it's been, I would say, at least 2 years. I sent out a lot of CVs. I actually said no to a bunch of great offers, you know, financially, especially. I turned down a lot of offers because I knew what I needed was a job that offered me remote work, flexible working hours where I can manage my own time. So I wasn't in a rush and I waited patiently for the right opportunity. And I'm very blessed and very thankful that it's about just over a month ago now that I started at this new job that ticks all these boxes.
That's amazing how life just has a way of working out at exactly the right time. So, did you experience any uncertainties in this transitioning period professionally?
I have to say, a lot of people ask me that. And I actually didn't because I had the time to figure it out. Because I've been applying for jobs so long, I think if I applied for something and I got an offer and I took it immediately, they would be. But the whole process and the fact that I waited so long, frustrating as it was, really gave me certainty that this is what I needed, that my previous job, as much as I loved it, that it was not working for our family scenario as it is at the moment. And the fact that I went for a lot of interviews and I actually turned down some offers just gave me certainty in what I wanted. So, on the one hand, I was very frustrated that what I was dreaming of and hoping for didn't happen. But on the other hand, when I finally did get what I was looking for, I knew that it was the right thing. And not that it would be perfect. No job is perfect. Every job has its challenges. But I knew that this job that I have now as a corporate communications manager in the education sector, and it's a remote job, the whole company works remotely and flexibly. This is part of their culture. I also realized that is something that I have to look for, where the culture of the company is remote work. So I had time to establish this is what I want for this part in my life. And that I also had time to make peace with the fact that, yes, I love journalism. I've always wanted to be a journalist. I had certain dreams, maybe when I was growing up, but also to realize that that is not part of my identity. I think that's something a lot of people who love their job so much, whether it be journalism or whatever, you kind of think this is who I am. I am a journalist. And it's been good for me to, while I was applying for jobs, to realize that I can be something else and still be me and still have a passion for telling stories, not necessarily in the way that I used to in news and in traditional media, but I can find other outlets of doing that. I have an Afrikaans parenting podcast, and that is where I now practice my love for telling stories. So it's actually been really good for me, and to kind of distance myself from my identity as Daniëlla is a journalist. No, I love journalism, but I am not only a journalist, and I can be a journalist and a storyteller really without doing it as a full-time job.
That is so refreshing, and it's almost a message I am so glad that we're putting out there for other women, because I feel like sometimes we do this education and we climb the corporate ladder and we spend years and years creating this career, and then stepping back, it almost feels like you're turning your back on something that you've spent so much time building. And like you said so accurately, it becomes part of your identity. So what would you tell other mothers if they you didn't have trouble stepping away, but if someone really doesn't want to, how should we manage this transition, or finding time for our families, or just finding that balance?
Oh, that's a hard one because I think people are so different. This is what works for me, but I never want to tell people, step away from your career, your family is what lasts. This is my story. I realized that one day when I die, I will not wish that I spent more time at the office or more time pursuing my career. For me, it was easy to narrow down that my passion isn't per se journalism, it's telling stories, and I can find another outlet of doing that. So maybe for someone else, this will not work. So I am cautious to tell someone what to do. But what I maybe can say is that there is other ways that you can live out that passion that you have, whether it be teaching or maybe working with finances or whatever it may be. So firstly, take your time. I think that may be good advice. I didn't just jump ship and change into a new career overnight. I took the time. I wrote down. I kind of crafted this vision of what I was looking for, and I turned down a lot of seemingly really good opportunities. Like I say, I told myself I got this really good offer financially, much more than I used to earn, and I said no for it. But I realized it still doesn't fit the bill. I would still have to go into an office every day, and the office was even farther from where I wanted to be. So that wasn't the goal. So I wrote down, or I mentally actually wrote down, but I also had a list of what am I looking for. And for me, it was something that gives me the freedom and the flexibility to craft my own day. And then what I love to do that wasn't as a part of that job, I just found another outlet for that. In terms of the podcast and other freelance work that I can still do. And I also looked for a job that still allows me to do this. I made sure from the get-go when I was interviewing, telling them, listen, I have this podcast, can I continue doing this? And my new employer did not mind at all. So think about your goals, think about what you want. Do not be too hasty. Take your time to look for the right opportunity and find other outlets where you can maybe live out that passion of yours that is not part of your full-time job, if that helps at all.
Yeah, it's great advice. I love that you were so almost professional about the transition, and that you had such a good plan and structure that you knew, listen, this is not what I want, and this is what I want, and I won't move until I get something that is precisely what I have in mind for me, but also for my family. And that's amazing. Do you think that more moms still have to make changes or sacrifices or compromises than dads when it comes to career shifts?
Oh, once again, it's a difficult one. And I realize that my opinion on this matter is not what is popular at the moment. I know the natural answer will be yes, and moms are the ones that carry the extra load. And in a certain sense, of course, that is true. I think we all know the mental load and all of that. But I also think it's very specific to families. You know, my husband made big changes himself to be with the kids. He chooses to be a freelancer, to not climb any corporate ladder. He's never going to be a CEO, and he's fine with that because he gets to work from home. Sometimes he's away from home. But that time when I was actually working as a news anchor, he got to see the kids way more than I did, spent more time with them than I did. So in our family, that was not the case. And I think, once again, I worked in journalism, and the companies that I've always worked for were very, very open and helpful to the fact that I was a mother. There was always room for when I wanted to express at work. People tried to assist me with that. When I had to go and fetch the kids from school, it wasn't an issue. I just realized that I had the kind of job where I had to be there. I worked in a newsroom. I actually read the news. You can't do that from home. So I realized that I had to be there, and it would be unfair to expect for me to then every afternoon be able to maybe go fetch the kids from school. Just the kind of work did not allow for it. But I always found a lot of support from my colleagues and my managers. When I was a mother, even when I was on maternity leave, I really did not have issues in that regard. So I know there's a lot of women who will disagree with me, and of course, based in their reality, it might be so. But I also think it's very much a mindset thing often. And I have chosen from the get-go in motherhood, hard as it is and challenging as it is, I do not like to paint myself as a victim and to say things like, because I'm a woman, this and that. I just find that it's not a good space for me to be in. I like to tell myself that I can do things, and I'll find a way, and I'll fix a problem, and I'll find a solution. It's also what I want to teach my daughters. Instead of telling them, because you're a girl, this will be hard for you in life, I will rather tell them that it's fantastic to be a girl. It's awesome to be a woman. Women are strong and powerful, and if someone stands in your way, laugh at them and make a plan instead of like lamenting whatever is in your way. So I think mindset has a lot to do with it, not negating the very real issues that women do face in society, and of course, gender-based violence and all of that. I am not making light of those issues. I'm just saying that I think mindset in terms of motherhood and not telling yourself, because I'm a woman, this and that, and because I'm a mother, it's more and more difficult. And working with your partner, I think being in a good relationship, a healthy relationship where you can speak with your partner or your husband about who does what at certain stages of their life makes a big difference. I have a wonderful husband. He never told me to make this career change. It was me. And when I've done it, he said he was really glad. He could see that I was struggling, but he never wanted to tell me he thinks I should be home more. It's something that I could realize by myself. But he supported me in whatever I undertook. So like I say, I can't speak for everyone, but I like a powerful and capable motherhood mindset.
That's lovely. I love that for you. And I do realize that there's so many employers and corporate companies that do actually are more mom compatible these days, but also our husbands are much more supportive. The winds of change are definitely blowing in terms of gender roles and what's expected of mothers and who's the breadwinner and who's more successful. And it's very refreshing to see that in more and more in our society. So Daniëlla, would we ever see you back in the newsroom in some or other capacity?
That's a good question. And the thing that I've learned in the past few years, Madge, is actually that I don't make too set plans anymore. You know, when you start off in your 20s, it's where do you see yourself in 5 years and in 10 years? And when I started as a journalist, my dream, like many others in my class, was that we wanted to be the magazine editor of a high fashion magazine, a Cosmopolitan or a Sari magazine. But I realized firstly that the media landscape is forever changing. So your dream of whatever you might want to do might not exist in 5 and 10 years' time. But on the flip side, there's opportunities in 5 and 10 years' time that there weren't by the time you have those dreams. So definitely you might still see me in newsrooms. And, 5 years ago, I did not know that I could start a podcast. You did not know that you could start a podcast. And that's how things are changing. Yes. So it's exciting. So I don't have these 5 and 10 years plans anymore. I am a bit more flexible with that. And I just make peace with the fact that I love telling stories. I love meeting people, interviewing them. And at this moment in my life, actually telling stories of motherhood as well, same as you. That is really an exciting place to be in. And the feedback, and I think the need for this kind of thing is very high at the moment, and people really welcome it. And that is the excitement of the internet and being able to publish your product on non-traditional media. Previously you had to be on a traditional radio station, or you had to have a TV show. Now there's creative ways of telling these stories and sharing information, and that's exciting for me. So you might see me in a newsroom in 5 to 10 years' time, or on some other media platform that someone somewhere is sitting and developing right now. But the crux of it is storytelling, and that I will keep doing regardless.
It is so wonderful to see how technology and life just brings new opportunities. You mentioned magazines. I was in magazines for 10 years, and then because of my kids, I transitioned into marketing, and that opened up a world of new things to learn, a whole new industry, tourism and hospitality, to explore. And the opportunity to actually also venture back into storytelling, but in a whole different way, which is moments and what we're doing here today. And it's been the most incredible journey. So the new beginnings and the set plans, there's definitely room for that, but having an open mind and trusting the process, that's for me the magic, the secret sauce is trusting the process, because this path that we're on, we're not in control, and to just let things happen and go with the flow, that's where the magic happens.
Absolutely. And now that you mentioned that, it's actually been so amazing looking back at this whole career change that I've done, just to see how the timing has worked out. I'm sitting here in, I like to call it my cloffice. It's a closet office, but this used to be the baby room just about 2 months ago. And at the exact same time when I started at this new job, it was the same time that my youngest daughter was actually due to move out of the cot and out of the baby room. She moved with her sister into the room. So at that exact same time, as I got to work from home, the space opened up that I could now utilize as my home office. And there were just a few things like that, actually a bunch of things like that I saw looking back. I was waiting and waiting and waiting for a right opportunity, wondering, praying, when is it going to happen? Why is it not happening? I'm really hoping for this. I want to spend more time with my family. And now that I look back, it is wonderfully amazing to see how literally it happened at the exact right time in so many regards. And as the typical thing of one door closing and the other opening up, excuse the cliche, but as I completed my career working in news, and I have to say there as well that I don't have regrets, because I did everything that I wanted. I was a field reporter for many years. I did live out that passion fully, so I can close that chapter with a full heart. But as that door closed, now a bunch of new things are coming along. My podcast is suddenly growing as well, and there's other opportunities coming along and things that would not have happened was I not brave enough to actually make that jump and do that. So it's been really just that kind of hindsight is 2020 vision. Now I can see how I really believe that God has planned all of this for me at the exact and right and perfect time. And I'm not a very emotional person when it comes to that, but it really is wonderful looking back. And I'm so thankful that, and I realize, like you say, it's not in my hands, but that these things happened as they should have happened for me to also be a more present mother, which is really what I want to be.
Yeah, that's beautiful, Daniëlla. Thanks so much for sharing. And of course, your podcast is also about being a mother. It's called Ma en 'n Mikrofoon, an Afrikaans podcast. Translated, it means a mom and a microphone. Tell us a bit more about your own podcast.
I became a mother literally at the dawn of lockdown. My baby was born 25 March 2020. That same midnight, we went into the first hard lockdown. So I went into the hospital for my C-section in one world. 4 days later, came out to another world, no cars on the road. That kind of that lockdown where you could not even buy baby clothes and, the rotisserie chicken and the open-toed shoes, that crazy time in all of our lives. But that was when I became a mother for the first time. I know a lot of people say they enjoyed it because they got to have their maternity leave with just them nesting in their homes. I did not. I like having people around me. I really missed having my friends coming to meet my baby, missed the fact that my mother could not be there for the first few weeks. My mother-in-law, they lived just on the other side of the mountain here, or not mountain, a koppie rather, in Krugersdorp. They're close by. But it was quite an isolating time. So, you have lots of time on your hands in that time when the newborn is still actually sleeping in those first few weeks before they stop sleeping altogether.
I had the complete opposite. I had a 2-year-old and a 5-month-old in lockdown.
I actually said to my husband, that must be way worse. Whenever someone felt sorry for us, I said, it is tough and it is isolating, but I can imagine having a toddler in this time would be more challenging. I would Google, and I started listening to podcasts in that time, not just parenting podcasts. I kind of discovered podcasts. Before that, many friends told me you have to listen to this and that, but that was the time. And even when I went back to work after my maternity leave, the drive to work, I would listen to podcasts. So the need for information and listening to podcasts at the same happened at the same time. And then I think just I saw stories everywhere. Being a journalist, that is kind of just the way that I operate. I'm sure you are too. Whenever someone tells you something that's like this could be a great story. But then I realized a lot of the motherhood stories are not really news stories. I work in traditional hard news at that time. And kind of over time, this idea started forming that I really think there is a need for a platform in Afrikaans, my mother tongue, because I also realized that people connect very emotionally to information in their mother tongue. And I've also always worked in Afrikaans at the newspapers. Then the news bulletin that I used to work at, Enis, was Afrikaans. And people often send very positive and emotional messages when you relay information in their mother tongue. So, long answer for your question, but a bunch of streams came together, and I think my background as a journalist led me to that kind of skill to be able to identify who to speak to for a specific topic or who is would be an interesting guest. And before I even started, I just had a long lineup of possible guests and topics, so that has never been an issue. Like, I know amazing women, amazing mothers who do amazing things. People now send me story ideas, and it's easy for me to find experts to speak to. So then in the beginning of 2024, I launched Mikrofoon as a weekly podcast where I basically have three themes. It's either experts who's also mothers as well, speaking on matters about things like tantrums or postnatal depression, or I speak sometimes to Afrikaans celebrity mothers who share their stories, or otherwise to inspirational moms, just mothers doing amazing things like Taryn Bell of the Butterfly Palliative Home in KwaZulu-Natal, who's a mom to her own kids, but she also looks after terminally ill children in their final days before they have incurable illnesses, and she makes sure that their last days on earth are spent in peace. So amazing women like that. So that's the kind of stories I tell, and for me, it has been so wonderful and personally fulfilling, and I learn so much in every episode. So it is the most rewarding thing.
Your podcast is truly an inspiration, and I think there are so many mothers who find it very, very useful. So your storytelling and your passion for sharing and spotting stories, as you said, is definitely going to last forever. And your daughters are lucky that they have a mom who has such a knack for telling stories. So our last question is, if you could send a message to your younger self, Daniëlla, the journalist who did not have kids yet, what would you tell her?
I would tell her to not fix her identity on being a journalist, and that she can tell stories in other formats as well. So she shouldn't be too worried about whether she can do this full time as a career and what will happen in the future. Things will work out as planned, and that part of storytelling will always be a part of your identity. And because it was placed there in you and it's a part of you, it will always find a way of being part of your life, whether it be as part of your career or otherwise. And also, you're going to love being a mom.
Oh, that's lovely. So this brings us to the final 5, which is 5 questions every single guest on Moments will answer. And the first one is, which part of your human experience, or HX as I like to call it, was changed the most by becoming a mother?
That is such a good question. I would say it would be what you live for, and not in the sense, because I'm not the kind of person who says the kids are my reason I'm here and they're the reason I get up every day. They are not. For me, it's important to not base my whole existence around them. But the way that I think about future planning and the choices that I make, and just the way that I approach life choices has changed dramatically. And I know they say that actually becoming a mother physically changes who you are. And for me, career has become much less of a focus. And I'm not saying that has to be the way it is for everyone. But for me, I've gotten more of a sense of looking forward towards the day that maybe I'm old. I hope I get old and I can look back on my life and what will be of importance. And it has really narrowed down for me to my family, my husband, and my children, that they are my wealth on earth. It's been a long answer. I don't know if I
That's
answered that um,
beautiful, beautiful.
uh, as you hoped I would.
Yes,
Does that make sense?
absolutely. There are no wrong answers here. So, what are you most grateful for on your mom journey?
A supportive and loving husband, because I said I do love being a mom, and I do not all the time, though. That has to be said. It's not just all wonderful. There are, of course, frustrating times and very tiring times. This weekend, I thought I would not be able, like, you just want to take a nap. Can someone just take these kids for a while and you take a nap? And having a husband by my side that is supportive and helpful, and he's such a fun dad, and when I'm down he lifts me up, and I think vice versa as well. And I actually learn a lot from him in terms of parenting. Maybe when I get a bit anxious or stressed, he's the calm one, sometimes the voice of reason when I'm not. And I think I also balance him in certain regards. So for me, that really has been the big game changer. And that's also actually something now that we can, I think back, I would tell my younger self, um, find yourself a good husband, you're going to, but you do not realize the impact that a good relationship, not a perfect one, because it is hard and it's hard work. And of course, there's fights and difficult times, but the impact that a good relationship, a good husband, a supportive partner will have on your journey as a mother is, you cannot measure it.
Yeah, that's so true. What would you do differently when you look back now over the last 5 years? Are there things that you would have approached in a different way?
My stock standard answer would be no, because you learn from everything. Um, but I do think there's things I might have done differently. I think I would realize earlier on that every phase, because especially the small baby phase, I know there's moms who like different phases. I really enjoy it quite a bit more when they start being able to speak and voice their concerns. So for me, when they were very little babies, the days felt very long. And I kind of felt stuck there, like that time where it's 11 in the day and 4 o'clock feels like it is very far off. And especially with the second child, it was easier because then you know how fast it passes. But the first time, and this also sounds cheesy, but it is true, I will never have that back. I do not plan on having more children, so I will never have, unless something unexpected happens, I will not have a little baby again. And I do not want a little baby again, but there's also something that you do miss about it. And I would maybe tell myself in that moment, yes, it is tough. The days really do feel long, all those cheesy things that they say, but to in that moment, just be more aware of that this will pass, and it will pass very soon. So acknowledge that it's hard, but also realize that there are good parts of it that you will never get back.
Yeah, that's so true. I must say the tiny baby phase was very hard for me too. But looking back, it felt like a moment in time. But when you're there in the trenches, it feels like it's never ever gonna pass.
Exactly. It's such a perspective thing. So I know you say it, but I realize if I had to do it again, say I get pregnant unexpectedly, it's going to be hard again. It's not like you're going to be, it is tough. It just really is tough. But you don't have that perspective when you are right there. But that is
Yeah,
what I would tell myself.
yeah. So your girls are still quite young. So the next question could maybe be something for the future. But when you do have this conversation with them, what would you tell them about parenting?
I would tell them that is, if it is what you want, because I'm not one of those people who tells everyone, oh, you should have children and it's the greatest thing on earth. If it's something that you want, and I hope it's something that they do want, but if they don't, it will be fine. And I will never pressure them to have children. I was also blessed that my mother never put any pressure on me to have kids. But I will tell them, if it's something that you want, it will be one of the greatest experiences of your life, and it will be good for you. It will change you as a person, um, in some bad ways as well, but mostly good. You will have to dig really deep into yourself, look for the most patient, the most caring, the most open to change and vulnerability and being able to apologize to your partner as well, that it will make you a tougher and more tired, but a better person. And that it really is a wonderful thing to do if that is what you want and you're blessed enough to have children.
That's so beautiful. Thank you. And then our very last question is, what is your North Star when you make parenting decisions?
So, there's a lot of talk about parenting styles and gentle parenting and, the baby boomers and what they used to do. And I think that kind of clutters things a bit. But I really like a quote that I once, actually, I think it was on Instagram, but someone said, firm but kind. And it's so simple. And I really like that. And I think that's a great balance between being a loving parent and giving them all of that emotional support that they need without just having no boundaries, letting them do whatever. So I think that firmness and discipline is also needed. And I think being strict is important. And I think that there should be repercussions if they do things wrong. And I think that you are not only their friend, you're their friend as well. But I think that really, so whenever I have a discipline issue or I wonder about things and my husband is on the same page as me, it's firm but kind.
That is the best summary I've heard in a very long time, and it could have saved me so much time reading tons of parenting books. Thanks for that summary. Daniëlla, thanks so much for joining me. I had so much fun chatting, and I will definitely catch you on 'n Mooi Mikrofoon.
Thank you so much, Madge, and it's actually been nice to be on the other side of the microphone. Usually I'm the one asking questions, so it's been a refreshing change to be the one answering the questions. So thank you so much for this opportunity and for you as well, giving this platform for moms and these honest and frank conversations. I really think there's so much need for this and space for this. So thank you for taking the time and hosting me as well.
Thank you, Daniëlla, and thanks for the well wishes. We are so often caught up in our own plans or our own ideas of what our lives and our careers should look like. But trusting the process and going where life takes us might just be the magic we've been searching for all along. Bye.
I was told to sleep when my baby sleeps.
Sibu says at 6 months, baby should be sitting up.
The group chat says their babies sleep through the night.
They say it's important to show control at all times.
Sometimes I wish away the tough times.
Yo, but sometimes I wish I could relive them again and again.